Hello and welcome to the second episode of What's Happening on Squam, brought to you by the Squam Lakes Association. I'm your host, Cole Beal, and on this episode, we welcome a new member to the Who's crew, SLA's Community Engagement Coordinator, Melissa Leszek. Melissa, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're excited to have you on.
Me too.
How did you find the SLA? How did you get here?
Yeah, well, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I was actually an intern here in 2011, and it was through an AmeriCorps program.
Yeah.
When we were here, but we only had 3 people at the time, and it was only started in May, and it went through August, so it was a very short season. But that was in 2011, and then I came back here to work in 2015 after I finished my master's at Plymouth State University.
What's your favorite part about the Squam Lakes region?
Ooh, well, a lot of it. So I'm originally from Pennsylvania, so it's actually near you, near Buffalo, New York. Mm-hmm. So I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania, which is right on Lake Erie. So it's definitely a little bit different of a terrain there. So when I came up here, I just immediately fell in love with the lakes, with the mountains, with the wildlife, everything about it. I just immediately really connected with Squam Lake. So much that I wanted to come back and finish my education here. And so I did. And then, like I said, shortly after that, I was hired back at SLA, and here I am.
It's a great place to be.
It is. It really is. It's a beautiful place to be, and it's so fun.
Also on the show, to my left, is Lakes Region Conservation Corps member Alex Reiber. Alex, how are you?
I'm well, Cole. Thank you for asking.
Yeah?
How are you?
I am great. Appreciate it. No one ever asks. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Checking in with you, bud.
Yeah. But, Alex, so same thing, how did you end up here?
So I found this opportunity here at the SLA through an email digest of sorts. It's called Ecolog or Ecolog. I was finishing up school. I studied at Wayne State University. Was just, looking for the next step, the next phase. Saw this, and honestly, the scuba diving is the big thing that roped me in. But all the work sounded really fun, and now that I've been here, has proven to be very fun.
Wayne State, where's that?
That is in Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit. Is that where you're from?
That's where I'm from. Yep, yeah. I grew up in the Metro Detroit area. Grew up in Detroit and then was living just outside of Detroit before moving here.
So we're all kind of from the Great Lakes area.
Yeah, and I can relate with the terrain here being a lot different, and I don't know, I could definitely see myself living in New Hampshire in a similar place in the future.
Yeah.
I love Michigan, I love the lakes, but it is a very flat place to be. So it's exciting to look out the window,
Yeah. Well, since you've been here, you've taken on the personal mission of finishing the NH48, the 4,000 foot hikes in New Hampshire. How far along are you, and do you have any good stories about your hike so far?
So I am at 25 so far. Every time I go out for a hike, it's great. It's just beautiful. I've met some really interesting people along the way. The most recent one that I did was with our roommate, John, and we went up to Mount Madison, and that was just a beautiful day. Barely any wind up towards the summit, not a cloud in the sky. Honestly, being in the presidential range, I would say, is one of the most beautiful places that I've been to, especially on a nice day like that.
Doing those hikes, how have the conditions changed? Because you started in the wintertime, and now that we're moving into the spring, things are warming up.
So pretty much all of my hikes have been in the winter. So snowshoes and micro spikes. Things are starting to melt up. And still at higher elevations, there's still quite a bit of snow, but some of the rock and everything is starting to be exposed now. So it's interesting seeing it change. But really, for the most part, everything is still pretty snow covered up at those elevations. So I'm curious as it warms up to see how the trails are.
I don't believe the White Mountain National Forest, they don't actually close their trails. Mm-hmm. So you can still hike there this time of year, which is fine. Although I know that they highly encourage that people stay off the trail, or, if they are on the trail, maybe try to hike below 3,000 feet. Mm-hmm. Just because, the trails are muddy, they are icy, they're snowy, and the trails themselves and the surrounding vegetation on those trails are just incredibly fragile right now, especially in the higher elevations, because the soil is just very soft. But it's definitely an important time of year and you guys are doing a great job. You know, the AmeriCorps members are doing a great job closing the trails. That's a big part of our trail management program here at the SLA. Although some of the people are they get very eager to hike. The weather's warming up. You know, we want to get outside, but we have to be patient for a month. So we do have a couple trails at the SLA that are still open for hiking, even during mud season, even though a lot of our main trails are closed off of 113 in the Squam range. Alex, what are those trails that are open?
So there's a few of them. As far as more mellow hikes, like trail walks, we've got Belknap Woods, Chamberlain Reynolds Memorial Forest is still open, although the west parking lot is closed, so there is a little bit more of limited parking there. We've got Witten Woods, which is another flat type of trail walk. And then if you're looking for something with more of a climb, a change in elevation, there's the Red Hill Trail, which is operated by the Lakes Region Conservation Trust.
So with those being open, we close arguably our most popular spot, Rattlesnake, the old bridle path.
Definitely our most popular.
And we do that.
Mount Morgan and Mount Percival.
Yeah, Mount Morgan and Mount Percival, Percival are closed.
Cotton, Livermore.
Yeah.
Israel's closed.
Not
Israel.
Doublehead's closed. Why is it that Melissa touched on a little bit earlier, but what's the reason for closing those?
So this time of year is a particularly, I guess, vulnerable time for the trails. With all of the snow that's been compacted, it's all starting to melt, and so we're getting a lot of mud, and there's also a lot of icy conditions. And so I guess intuitively what people want to do is to avoid those things. You know, you don't want to step in huge mud puddles or on the ice, so people are going around it. So that may be convenient to do, but is actually damaging for the trail. It damages the vegetation, which is along the corridor, and ultimately what ends up happening is that the trail widens. It becomes more prone to erosion, which is not what we want to do. We want to keep the trails in the condition that they are. So to protect and preserve the trails, we close them for 1 month every year around this time.
And we closed those on April 4th. So keep your eyes on the Squam Lakes Association's website and social media pages for a notice that they have been opened up again.
For sure, yeah. And if you do find yourself hiking out there right now on the trails that are open, be sure to wear some sort of waterproof hiking boot or gaiters so that you are actually able to walk directly through the most used and impacted part of the trail, which is basically straight down the middle, even if you're walking in a puddle, rather than trying to walk around the mud, which Alex just said creates winding of the trail and erosion. Again, closing the trails are a very important part of trail maintenance, so we're very thankful for the Lakes Region Conservation Corps for going out there and closing the trails. And also, throughout the year, they do a lot of trail work, and we offer volunteer trail work days to make sure that the trails remain protected throughout the year. And so the SLA's AmeriCorps members and work with community volunteers together to perform trail work that is needed to keep these trails open. So if you would like to help us maintain the 50 miles of trails in the Squam Range and get your hands dirty, check out the SLA's events calendar and join us on one of our volunteer trail work days. Just go to www.squamlakes.org/calendar to register.
Alex, this past weekend you hosted a really interesting sounding event, Carbon Counts, Understanding Your Carbon Footprint. What was the event? What was it about? How'd it go? And you get a decent turnout?
It went good. The turnout was a little on the smaller side. Yeah, so it was an adventure ecology program, essentially explaining different components of the carbon cycle, and kind of tying that into climate change and looking at different ways that carbon is sequestered or stored. One of the main things that we looked at was trees, so looking at how trees can uptake carbon. Part of the program was going out and measuring trees, and there's pretty simple calculations that you can do to just kind of estimate. But yeah, it was a small program. I kind of expected that, just, I don't know, based on the nature of it, it was kind of math heavy. I didn't know if that would appeal to too many people, but I figured it would be interesting. And yeah, I think it went pretty good.
Would you mind telling us a few ways that you can lower your carbon footprint? What are some easy things to do?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing is going to be reducing our consumption of energy and fossil fuel emissions. So you could be carpooling. A big thing is the insulation in your house, keeping heat in. So maybe if you have an older home, you can look at getting your insulation redone so that you can keep a lot of the heat in and you're not constantly, burning fossil fuels to keep the temperature at the same temperature there. And choosing to ride bikes or to go by foot whenever you can.
I wish I could ride my bike to work.
Yeah, it would be nice. It is
25 miles away.
Yeah.
Luckily, we live next door.
I know, you guys can just walk over.
You've got a pretty easy commute.
Must be nice.
Saving money on gas.
Definitely, and lowering your carbon footprint.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So SLA-hosted events are free of charge and will be exciting and fun for the whole family. Throughout the year, we host a variety of events: guided hikes, trail work days, nature-inspired art, adventure ecology, just to name a few. These programs are open to anyone, and they cover a variety of topics that span across all sides of conservation and nature-related themes. The events and programs are presented by the Lakes Region Conservation Corps members at the SLA. So come out, bring the family, support the SLA and the Squam Lakes watershed. For more information about all of our upcoming events and to register, go to www.squamlakes.org/calendar. A few days ago, Monday, April 22nd, was Earth Day. Earth Day occurs annually and is a day dedicated to supporting environmental protection and celebrating the beautiful planet we live on. It's celebrated around the world in over 193 countries, and in some places, it's treated as a whole week-long event. But it was not always like this. The first Earth Day was on April 22nd, 1970, thanks to the efforts of former United States Senator Gaylord Nelson. He was elected in 1962 after serving 2 terms as the governor of Wisconsin. In the 18 years he served as senator, he worked tirelessly to bring environmental issues and conservation to the national stage. The first Earth Day celebrated saw nearly 20 million people come out to massive rallies and demonstrations. Celebrators marched and performed peaceful protests in the name of a healthy, sustainable, and protected Earth. It brought farmers, politicians, scientists, students, union members, and people of all demographics together to stand up and make their voices heard. In the years that have followed, the Environmental Protection Agency was created, as well as many forms of legislation. The Clean Air Act, the Water Quality Improvement Act, the Water Pollution and Control Act, and the Safe Drinking Water Act, just to name a few. Earth Day and Earth Week are especially very important here at the SLA. And over the past week and a half, the Squam Lakes Association has been putting on a few events and had a few programs going on to celebrate our Earth and to celebrate Earth Week. One thing that has been happening over the past few days is our Adventure Vacation Camp, where Lakes Region Conservation Corps members Alex Reiber and John Plummer have been hanging out with the local students and been doing some things here at the Squam Lakes Association while school has been out for the Easter and spring break. So, Alex, would you mind talking a little bit about that and what you guys have been doing?
Yeah, so it has been a lot of fun. Today was the 3rd day of camp. And we've been doing a lot of things. We've been doing some rock climbing. On Earth Day, we were talking a bit about invasive species. And we had quite a few arts and crafts. We were working to make planters out of recycled containers. And then we were turning t-shirts into reusable bags. Today was a pretty fun day. We got to go out and explore the river that runs behind the SLA here. And we did some sampling for benthic macroinvertebrates, which is a pretty big word.
That is a big word.
The kids were all pretty confused when they first heard that word. We had to kind of break it down.
So how did they catch them?
So we sampled them using little nets. They're called dip nets. And yeah, these are little aquatic organisms that are found in rivers and in standing bodies of water, like in lakes. And they kind of tell us about water quality. We can kind of infer information about what the condition of the water is. And it's just fun to do.
It does sound fun.
So yeah, they were having a blast sampling the river and just looking through the samples that we collected.
Did you guys see any other wildlife while you were outside?
No, not tons of wildlife outside today, but the Science Center, the Squam Lake Central Science Center was here today. And they brought a couple of critters with them. So that was interesting. There was a broad-winged hawk and a possum, and there was a snake. There was a ball python. So the kids definitely enjoyed that.
You're meaning to tell me there was a snake Inside the SLA.
Yes,
today.
that is correct.
Is it still here?
Yeah, it might be here. It got out and we weren't able to find it, so it's.
Well, that's
I'm
cool.
just-
Did the kids
just
like
kidding.
to? Did they like the animals?
Yeah.
From the Squam Lake Science Center?
Yeah, they all seemed very interested. It was kind of funny while we were having the presentation, the power was turned off because we've been having our solar panels put in here at the SLA. So it was kind of funny mid-presentation. All the lights went out, projector went off, but the show still went on, and yeah, the kids had a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah, that brings up a good point. That we actually did not mean to do this, but this week we started our solar installation project. It started on Monday, and they've been working all week putting up the framing for the solar panels, and we're going to get, I think, 110 or 112 arrays on our roof that's going to power the SLA, the Squam Lakes Conservation Society next door, your cottage at the AmeriCorps cottage that you live in, and the barn, the Fisher family barn. So it's going to pretty much generate all the power that we use on this campus. So that's pretty exciting. And the Plymouth Area Renewable Energy Initiative are installing everything, and we've been working with them in partnership, and they're great. They're awesome.
It was very appropriate that the installation started on Earth Day.
Yes, exactly. Let the sun shine.
So another event that the SLA hosted during Earth Week was a Squam speaker series, The Importance of Local Agriculture and Food Production to the Community and Environment. Melissa, would you like to talk a little bit more about what this is about?
Sure. Yeah. So on Wednesday, April 24th, it's part of our Spring into Action series, which is basically our Squam speaker series, but our spring version where we talk about climate change and ways in which you can combat climate change personally and on an individual level. So one of our speakers during this series is John Moulton of Moulton Farm from Moulton Borough, New Hampshire. And he is he's been farming for over 40 years. He uses sustainable farming practices. So he's coming to talk about the importance of local agriculture and basically how he uses his business for good.
Yeah, local agriculture is something that's really important, especially with keeping water in your local watershed. You know, when you go to the grocery store and you're buying produce that's coming in from California, that there's water that's being used in California for those vegetables, then that vegetable comes here and then we consume it, and then that water enters our watershed. So it's important to think about how your decisions and what we consume impact not only yourself, but the local environment as well as the world as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with like local food production. I mean, we're essentially buying things from our local grocery store that's being shipped in from California, Mexico, Peru, all over. And you have to think about the carbon footprint of those transportation costs.
Exactly.
On getting that food here, when even though in the wintertime it's a little hard to find avocados in the Northeast. It's a little cold to grow.
You mean avocados don't grow in New Hampshire in the winter?
I don't think so. We may have the winter avocado, but I don't think it's become too popular yet. But especially in the summer, I mean, local produce is all I buy. I mean, on my way home, I stop at, I go to local farmers markets or I stop at local food stands. I hardly go to the grocery store in the summer. So another thing that occurred this week was the Plymouth State University Earth Fair or Earth Week. So they actually do that, and me being a Plymouth State alum, I attended this quite a bit every year. And it's a really great week just to, learn about, our earth and how to protect it and different ways that you can protect it. And so the Squam Lakes Association usually attends it every year, and we set up a table. And I actually did not attend this year, but you attended, Cole. You were there today.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was good. It was a pretty nice day. There was moments when the sun was out and it felt really warm.
Oh, so you guys were actually outside?
Yeah, we were outside.
Oh, okay.
When we showed up. Emily Gross, the Lakes Region Conservation Corps, AmeriCorps program manager, and myself went. And when we got there, we weren't really sure what was going to be going on, but then we saw the tables outside, and we were like, oh, good, we're outside. But, it was just a tabling event. There was people from all over that were there doing representing all sorts of organizations. But we did at our table, we had the T-shirt reusable bag thing that we've been doing a lot. We have received a box load of these T-shirts, so we're trying to make as many bags as we can to give away to people. But it was nice. It's nice to be in a community where everybody seems to be involved and everybody seems to be taking pride in this kind of thing. On April 22nd, schools, workplaces, and organizations worldwide celebrate Earth Day. But why does it need to be one day out of 365 that we celebrate our world? If one day in 1970 can create so much change, imagine what living every day like it's Earth Day now could do. It is so easy to make simple changes in our daily lives to shrink our impact on the planet. Utilizing rainwater for washing our cars and watering our gardens compared to that from the hose. Carpooling, riding a bike, or utilizing forms of public transit when available are great ways of cutting down our individual carbon footprints. But perhaps one of the easiest things we can do comes from what we consume. Not what we consume and watch on TV or online, but from what we put into our bodies, the food we eat. Supporting local farms, like we talked about earlier. And supporting local markets compared to that of the big-time chains and supermarkets. Cutting down on meat and animal-based food consumption while promoting a healthy lifestyle also cuts down on land and water usage. According to the book Blue Planet Run, the average quarter-pound hamburger requires nearly 2,900 gallons of water. 2,900 gallons of drinkable fresh water that could be used by someone in need is instead being used to grow, feed, and hydrate an animal whose sole purpose of existence is to be turned into food. Earth Day should not be treated as an individual day where the protection of the earth matters, but instead should be a reminder and a celebration of all the hard work put in year-round to make the planet a healthier and more sustainable place. Every day should be Earth Day, and Earth Day shouldn't be the push we all need to make a change. The lake is calling, and we must go. Until next time.